I kept both hands wrapped around the steering wheel as I pulled into the parkade beneath my daughter's condo building in Mississauga. The oncologist's words from that morning still echoed in my mind. Stage 2 prostate cancer, treatable, excellent prognosis, with surgery and radiation. At 67, I'd built a successful career in commercial real estate across the Greater Toronto area. I'd survived the 2008 crash, the pandemic shutdowns, and countless deals that could have buried me. Cancer? That was just another challenge to face head-on. But as I rode the elevator up to the 12th floor, carrying my overnight bag and a bottle of wine I'd picked up for dinner, I wasn't thinking about treatment plans or survival rates. I was thinking about my daughter, Rebecca, 34, brilliant, my pride and joy, and her husband, Connor McLeod, 38, who I'd helped get his contracting business off the ground 5 years ago with a $75,000 loan that had somehow never been repaid. Rebecca had called me 3 days earlier, insisting I come over for Sunday dinner. "Dad, you never just visit anymore," she'd said, that familiar guilt-trip tone in her voice. "Connor's making his famous prime rib. Come over, stay the night, we'll have breakfast together like old times." Old times? Before Connor. Before my wife Patricia passed away 4 years ago from ovarian cancer, leaving me alone in our 4-bedroom house in Oakville. Before Rebecca stopped calling unless she needed something. But I came because she was my daughter. Because after Patricia died, Rebecca was all I had left. Our son David had moved to Vancouver 10 years ago, working in tech, living his own life. We talked monthly, exchanged texts about the Maple Leafs and Raptors, but he'd built a world 3,000 miles away. Rebecca was here. Rebecca was supposed to be close. I knocked on their door at exactly 5:30. Connor answered, beer in hand, wearing sweatpants and a stained Leafs jersey. His contracting business had taken off after my initial investment, then crashed spectacularly 2 years ago when he'd overpromised on 3 projects simultaneously and couldn't deliver. Now he picked up sporadic renovation jobs, spending most afternoons watching sports and drinking Molson Canadian. "Robert," he said, not Rob or Dad or even Mr. Chen. Just my first name, flat and unwelcoming. "Rebecca's in the kitchen." I found my daughter standing over the stove, her dark hair pulled back, looking exhausted. She worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep, pulling in $80,000 a year, carrying the household while Connor's income fluctuated between barely anything and absolutely nothing. "Dad!" She turned, wiping her hands on a towel, and hugged me tightly. For a moment, she was my little girl again, the one who used to sit on my shoulders at Canada's Wonderland, screaming with delight on the roller coasters. "You look tired. Had an appointment this morning," I said carefully. "Nothing major. How are you, sweetheart?" We made small talk while she finished cooking. Connor had apparently abandoned his famous prime rib plan, leaving Rebecca to throw together a roast chicken instead. He remained planted on the couch, volume turned up on the Leafs game, occasionally shouting at the television. Over dinner, I tried to tell them about my diagnosis, tried being the operative word. "So, I saw Dr. Morrison today," I began, setting down my fork. "I've been having some issues, and after a biopsy last month—" "Dad, can this wait?" Rebecca interrupted, glancing nervously toward the living room, where Connor had relocated with his plate, still glued to the game. "Connor's really stressed about a job he's bidding on this week." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When had she become so small, so diminished? This wasn't the confident woman who'd graduated top of her class from Queen's University, who'd once told her mother and me that she'd never let a man dictate her life. "It's cancer, Rebecca," I said quietly. "Prostate cancer, stage 2. Her fork clattered against her plate. "Oh my God, Dad, She reached across the table for my hand. Are you going to be okay?" "Prognosis is good. Surgery in 3 weeks, then radiation. I'll need to take it easy for a few months during recovery and treatment." Connor appeared in the doorway, empty plate in hand. "What's all the drama about?" "My father has cancer," Rebecca said, her voice cracking. Connor's expression didn't change. "That sucks, man." He headed to the kitchen for another beer. "Leafs are up by 2, by the way. Might actually win one for a change." The words hit me like a physical blow. That sucks, man. 4 words for a cancer diagnosis. 4 words for the man who'd loaned him $75,000, co-signed his business line of credit when no bank would touch him, helped him through 3 years of struggles. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "Connor, that's my father." "Yeah, I know." I said, "It sucks." He popped open the beer. "What do you want me to do? Start sobbing?" He said the prognosis is good. He'll be fine. I stayed overnight as planned, because I'd already committed to it, because Rebecca looked so devastated, because I was still processing the casual cruelty of my son-in-law's response. That night, I lay in their guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to them argue in hushed voices down the hall. I couldn't make out most of it, but certain phrases carried. Your father, we can't afford. He's got money. I don't care what you think. The next morning, I woke early, packed my bag, and went to the kitchen to make coffee. Their condo was nice. A 2-bedroom with decent square footage in a modern building. I knew because I'd helped with the down payment 4 years ago. $60,000. My contribution to their future, their stability. Rebecca had cried with gratitude, promising to pay me back once Connor's business stabilized. That repayment had never materialized. Neither had any acknowledgement that without my money, they'd still be renting a basement apartment in Brampton. I was pouring my second cup when I heard Connor's voice from their bedroom. The door was cracked open, and sound traveled easily in these newer condos with their thin walls. I'm telling you, Becca, this is our chance, Connor was saying. Your old man's loaded. He's sitting on that house in Oakville, worth at least $2 million, probably more. Plus whatever else he's got socked away from his real estate deals. You think he needs all that money? He's got cancer. He's not going to be around forever. My hand froze, coffee cup halfway to my lips. Connor, don't say things like that, Rebecca protested, but her voice was weak, uncertain. I'm just being realistic. Look, he comes here, drops his cancer bomb, and yeah, it's sad or whatever, but what are we supposed to do? We're barely keeping our heads above water. My truck payment's due, we're 3 months behind on condo fees, and your dad's sitting pretty in a house that's way too big for one person. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe he should think about helping us out more, especially if he's going to need care during his treatment. He said he'd need to take it easy. Not that he'd need full-time care. Whatever. Point is, he's got resources. We don't. Family's supposed to help family, right? He should be offering to help us, especially with what we're dealing with. Silence. Then Rebecca's voice, so soft I almost missed it. What do you want me to do? Talk to him. Tell him we're struggling. See if he'll cover our condo fees for a while. Maybe help with the truck payment. Hell, if he's going to be laid up anyway. Maybe he should think about selling that big house and moving somewhere smaller. Somewhere assisted living-ish. He could give us the difference. Connor, that's his home. Mom died there. It's real estate, Becca. It's just a house. Your mom's gone. He's sick. Be practical. We need money more than he needs 4 bedrooms and a 3-car garage. I set the coffee cup down very carefully, very quietly. My hands were shaking, not from fear or sadness, but from pure, crystallizing rage. This was what my generosity had bought me. This was what $75,000 in business loans, $60,000 in down payment assistance, and countless other smaller amounts over the years had earned me. Not gratitude, not respect, not even basic human decency, just calculation, just greed, just a son-in-law weighing my worth against my life expectancy. I picked up my overnight bag, left the coffee cup on the counter, and walked out. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't leave a note. I simply left. In my car, I sat for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, breathing deeply. Then I pulled out my phone and made 3 calls. The first was to my lawyer, Martin Shapiro, who'd handled Patricia's estate and my business dealings for 20 years. Martin, it's Robert Chen. I need to update my will immediately, and I need to discuss some other financial matters. The second call was to my accountant, Linda Kowalski. Linda, I need a full accounting of every dollar I've given to my daughter and son-in-law over the past 5 years. Every loan, every gift, every payment I've made on their behalf. The third call was to my son in Vancouver. David, it's Dad. Do you have time to talk? I drove back to Oakville, pulled into my garage, and sat down at Patricia's old desk in the home office. The desk I'd kept exactly as she'd left it, with her fountain pens in the holder and her reading glasses folded neatly on top of her last book. I opened my laptop and started making lists. Martin emailed me the accounting 2 days later. The numbers were worse than I'd remembered. $75,000 business loan to Connor. 2019, never repaid. $60,000 down payment assistance. 2020. Promised repayment never materialized. Monthly helping out payments averaging $2,000 for the past 18 months. $36,000 total. Connor's truck payment, which I'd been covering for 6 months without Rebecca's knowledge. $450 monthly. $2,700 total. various emergency payments, property tax, bailout, insurance payment, car repair, dental work, approximately $15,000 over 3 years. Grand total, $188,700. For context, I'd given David $20,000 for his wedding 5 years ago. That was it. He'd never asked for more, never needed more, never expected his father to bankroll his adult life. Martin's revised will arrived in my inbox 3 days later. I read it twice, then signed it electronically. My estate, currently valued at approximately $3.2 million, including the house, investments, and life insurance, would now be divided as follows. David Chen, 50%, $1.6 million. My loyal son who'd built his own life, asked for nothing, expected nothing, earned everything. University Health Network Foundation, 40%, $1.28 million, to fund prostate cancer research and patient support programs. Rebecca McLeod, 10%, $320,000, conditional upon her being married to someone other than Connor McLeod at the time of my death. If still married to Connor, $0. Everything would be split between David and the Cancer Foundation. I also added a clause about the loans. If I died before receiving repayment, my estate would file a claim against Connor's assets for the $75,000 business loan. He'd signed a promissory note. I had documentation. He would pay one way or another. Then I opened a new email to Rebecca. I wrote and deleted 4 versions before settling on the right words. Rebecca, I left your home Monday morning after overhearing Connor's conversation with you about my diagnosis, my house, and my finances. I won't repeat the specific words, but I will say this. I am deeply hurt and disappointed, not because Connor showed his true character. I've known what he is for years, but because you didn't defend me, because you asked him what he wanted you to do, as if manipulating your sick father for money was a reasonable option to consider. I have updated my will. I have calculated every dollar I've given you both over the years. It totals $188,700. Consider it a gift. I will not ask for repayment, but I will also not give you another cent. My house is my home, filled with memories of your mother. I will not sell it. I will not downsize. I will not fund your husband's failures any longer. If you wish to have a relationship with me, you know where I am. But that relationship will not include financial support, will not include Connor's presence in my life, and will not include any discussion of my assets or my estate. I love you, Rebecca. I always will. But love doesn't mean being an ATM machine. Love doesn't mean accepting disrespect. And love certainly doesn't mean tolerating someone who views my cancer diagnosis as a financial opportunity. Dad. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response came within an hour. A phone call, not a text. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call, another voicemail, then texts. Dad, please answer. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you heard that. Connor didn't mean it the way it sounded. Please call me. Let's talk about this. I deleted the texts without responding. That evening, she showed up at my house. I watched from the upstairs window as she rang the doorbell, knocked, rang again, then finally sat down on the front steps and cried. For 30 minutes, she sat there. I watched her, this woman I'd raised, this person who'd once been my greatest joy, and felt nothing but sadness, not anger anymore, just profound, aching sadness. Eventually, she left. My surgery was scheduled for 3 weeks later, mid-November. David flew in from Vancouver, took 2 weeks off work, and stayed with me. He cooked, cleaned, drove me to appointments, sat with me through the anxiety and the waiting, and never once mentioned money or inheritances or real estate values. You raised me right, Dad, he said one evening as we sat watching the Raptors game. You taught me that integrity matters more than comfort, that family means showing up, not cashing in. Mom would be proud of how you're handling this. Your mother would be heartbroken about Rebecca. No, David said firmly. Mom would be heartbroken about Connor. She'd be proud of you for drawing boundaries. Rebecca made her choice. She chose him over you, over basic decency, over everything you and Mom taught her. Rebecca tried twice more to visit. David answered the door both times, told her I wasn't receiving visitors, and closed the door. The second time, Connor was with her. He tried to push past David, claiming he had a right to see me, that we needed to talk like men. David, who's 6'3" and runs marathons, blocked the doorway. You have no rights here. You're not family. You're a leech who's been bleeding my father dry for years. Leave now, or I'm calling the police for trespassing. They left. My surgery went well. The cancer was contained, cleanly removed, and my prognosis remained excellent. During my 6-week recovery, David stayed, working remotely, taking care of everything. We talked more in those 6 weeks than we had in the previous 5 years. About Patricia, about regrets, about what really matters in life. I'm changing your inheritance, I told him one afternoon. You're getting more, significantly more. Dad, you don't have to. It's already done. You've earned it, not by showing up for 6 weeks, but by living your life with integrity, by never treating me like a bank account, by being the son your mother and I hoped you'd become. David's eyes filled with tears. I just wish Rebecca could see what she's throwing away. Maybe she will, someday. But that's her journey to take. The radiation treatment started in January. 30 sessions over 6 weeks. Exhausting, occasionally painful, but manageable. David had to return to Vancouver for work, but he called daily and flew back for 2 long weekends during my treatment. Rebecca's attempts to contact me continued sporadically. Texts on my birthday in February. A card for Father's Day in June, forwarded from the hospital where I was having a follow-up scan. Always the same message. I'm sorry. Please talk to me. I love you. Never. I left Connor. Never. You were right. Never. I chose wrong. Just apologies without change. Regrets without consequences. The spiritual equivalent of thoughts and prayers. In August, 14 months after that morning in Mississauga, my doorbell rang at 7 on a Tuesday evening. I wasn't expecting anyone. David was in Vancouver. My post-treatment checkups were going well, cancer-free, and I'd started playing golf again with my old business partners. I opened the door to find Rebecca standing there, alone, looking thinner than I remembered, older somehow. Dad, she said simply, please, 5 minutes. I should have closed the door, should have maintained my boundaries. But she was still my daughter, Patricia's daughter, so I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in the living room, the same room where Patricia and I had hosted countless family dinners, where Rebecca had opened Christmas presents as a child, where life had once been simple and full of love. Connor and I separated, she said without preamble. 3 months ago, the divorce will be final in September. I waited. You were right about him. About everything. The business failure, the drinking, the using you, using me. I couldn't see it, or I didn't want to see it. I thought love meant standing by someone no matter what. I thought loyalty meant defending him even when he was wrong. Your mother and I didn't teach you that, I said quietly. No, you didn't. You taught me that real love requires respect, that loyalty is earned, not automatic. That family means supporting each other, not exploiting each other. She wiped her eyes. I forgot those lessons. Connor was charming and fun, and I thought I could fix him, save him, make him into the man I wanted him to be. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I know that now. She looked around the room, at Patricia's photographs, still on the mantel, at the life I'd maintained without her. I heard about your will, David told me. David wasn't supposed to. He didn't tell me details, just that I'd made my choice and would have to live with the consequences. He was right. I did make my choice. I chose Connor over you, over common decency, over everything Mom taught me about integrity and respect. So why are you here now, Rebecca? Now that Connor's gone, now that there's no one left to influence you, now that you've hit bottom, why show up at my door? Because you're my father, she said simply. Because I love you. Because I'm ashamed of who I became and I want to do better. Not because of money or inheritance or any of that. Because I miss you. Because when I had a cancer scare last month, it was nothing. Just a benign cyst. The first person I wanted to call was you. And I couldn't. Because I'd burned that bridge so thoroughly there was nothing left but ashes. We sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, the August evening was fading into dusk. Cicadas singing in the trees Patricia had planted 20 years ago. I'm not changing my will, I said finally. I don't want you to. I'm not giving you money. I'm not asking for any. If you came here thinking you could apologize your way back into my good graces and into my estate, Dad, I came here because I miss my father, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed, because you had cancer and I wasn't there for you. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I'm not here for money. I'm here because I finally understand what Mom always said. Integrity is what you do when no one's watching, when there's no benefit to being good, when being decent costs you something. I studied my daughter's face, looking for the calculation, the angle, the con, but all I saw was exhaustion and genuine remorse. You understand that trust, once broken, takes years to rebuild? I do. You understand that even if we repair our relationship, things will never be the same? I do. You understand that Connor is never welcome in my home, my life, or my presence, even if you have occasional contact with him for legal or financial reasons. He won't. The divorce decree includes a mutual agreement to avoid contact whenever possible. He's moving to Alberta for a job. I'll never see him again if I can help it. I took a deep breath. Then here's what I'm willing to offer. We can try to rebuild our relationship. Slowly, carefully, with clear boundaries. We can have dinner once a month. We can talk on the phone weekly if you want. We can work towards something resembling what we once had. Thank you, she whispered. But, I continued, the will stays as it is. The financial boundaries stay in place. You're a grown woman with a good job. You don't need my money. If you need advice, guidance, help navigating life, I'm here. But the bank of Dad is permanently closed. Are we clear? Crystal clear. And if at any point I feel you're manipulating me, using me, or reverting to the person you became with Connor, I will walk away, permanently. No second chances. This is the second chance. Understood. We started slowly. Dinner at a neutral restaurant once a month, phone calls on Sundays, careful conversations about work, weather, safe topics. Gradually, over months, we began to rebuild something fragile and new. Rebecca got a promotion at work. She moved to a smaller apartment, downsized her life, focused on therapy and self-improvement. She dated occasionally, but nothing serious. I need to figure out who I am without a man defining me, she told me. I need to become someone Mom would be proud of again. By the time Father's Day rolled around the following year, 2 years after that devastating morning in Mississauga, Rebecca and I had settled into a comfortable, if cautious, relationship. We weren't what we'd been before Connor, but we were something real, something honest. She took me out for brunch at a place in Port Credit overlooking Lake Ontario. Over eggs Benedict and coffee, she handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a check for $5,000. "Rebecca, what?" "It's the start," she said. "I calculated what I owe you. The full $188,000. I can't pay it all back. Probably not for 20 years at my current salary and expenses. But I can pay $5,000 a year. Maybe more as I advance at work. I don't expect you to cash these checks. I don't expect forgiveness or a changed will, or anything except for you to know that I understand my debts. Not just financial, but moral." I looked at the check, then at my daughter's face. "You're serious. Completely. Connor taught me to take. You and Mom taught me to give. To honor my obligations. To be responsible. I forgot those lessons. I'm relearning them." I folded the check and put it in my wallet. Not because I needed the $5,000, but because Rebecca needed to give it. Because integrity isn't about grand gestures, but about consistent, small acts of accountability. "Your mother would be proud," I said, my voice thick. "I hope so. I'm trying to be worthy of you both." Now, as I sit here in my home office at Patricia's old desk, with my cancer in remission and my relationships clarified, I've been thinking about the lessons from these past 2 years. The hard, expensive lessons that cost nearly $200,000 and almost cost me my daughter. I've learned that generosity without boundaries isn't love, it's enabling. That family doesn't mean unconditional financial support. That respect must be mutual, or it becomes exploitation. I've learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. That protecting your dignity isn't selfish, it's essential. That teaching consequences is a greater gift than offering endless bailouts. I've learned that cancer, as terrible as it is, can clarify everything. It strips away pretense and reveals character. It shows you who stands by you because they love you and who sees you as a resource to be harvested before you're gone. Most importantly, I've learned that it's never too late to set boundaries. Not at 67, not after decades of enabling, not even after cancer. You're allowed to change the rules. You're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to demand respect. My will remains unchanged. David will inherit the bulk of my estate because he earned it through years of integrity. The Cancer Foundation will benefit because fighting this disease matters more than funding someone else's poor choices. And Rebecca will inherit enough to know I still love her, but not enough to make her financially dependent on my death. Because that's the final lesson. True love doesn't create dependency. True love builds strength. And if I've taught my daughter anything in these past 2 years, I hope it's that she's strong enough to stand on her own, capable enough to rebuild her life, and worthy of respect, including her own. Some people say I went too far. That family is family. that I should have forgiven Rebecca immediately, that cutting off financial support was cruel. To those people I say this. There's a difference between cruelty and consequences. There's a difference between forgiveness and being a doormat. And there's a world of difference between loving someone and letting them treat you like an ATM machine with a terminal diagnosis. Connor's 9 words that morning, "He's got cancer." He's not going to be around forever, cost him a $75,000 loan repayment he'll spend years paying off, cost him a relationship with his father-in-law, cost him his marriage when Rebecca finally woke up and saw what he'd become. But those words also cost me. They cost me time with my daughter, peace during my treatment, and the naive belief that generosity automatically creates gratitude. They also gave me something: clarity, boundaries, self-respect, and eventually a healthier relationship with Rebecca, built on honesty instead of obligation. Was it worth $188,000 to learn those lessons? To teach them? Ask me on a hard day, and I'll say no. Nothing is worth losing time with your child. Ask me on a clear day, and I'll say absolutely. Because I didn't lose my daughter. I saved her. I saved her from a marriage that was destroying her. I saved her from the person she was becoming. And I saved myself from being consumed by people who confused my kindness for weakness. In the end, respect costs nothing to give. But disrespect? That can cost you everything. That's a lesson worth learning, even if the tuition is steep.